And so I thought it'd be really funny if I just kept a timer here to appease you,
and then so I know,
and then not pay attention to it.
Thank you. That's very helpful. I appreciate your partnership.
I do what I can.
This is what friendship and business collaboration looks like.
So for those of you who don't know, Nicole and I have been best friends for
20 years.
20 years, and so we joke around a lot. We make fun of each other a lot. Actually, she makes fun of me more than I make fun of her.
He deserves it more than I do.
That might be true. So we're starting this new show called Coffee and Connection.
Yep.
I think one of the things that Nicole and I are really focused on is helping people to connect. And behind the scenes, we're the best of friends. We have wonderful opportunities to connect with one another. And so we thought it'd be nice to share that with the world and just talk about some of the issues that are on our minds, that are possibly on your minds, and just kind of see what happens.
All right. Well, here we go. Well, I've got the coffee.
Yeah, and for those of you who know me, I don't drink coffee, so I have a mystery drink in my cup.
Mystery drink, but we've reserved the lid is still on the bottle of emergency Bailey's. So if we need it later, we have it, but we haven't opened that yet. Just for clarification.
If you notice the title of the show changing to Bailey's and Bailey, then
we've diverted.
We've cracked it open. So what we want to talk about today is kind of what everyone's dealing with right now. We're working from home. Schools are closed, stores are closed, restaurants are closed, and it's a time of uncertainty. And one thing that Nicole has always kind of reminded me of in times like these is that what we've been given is the gift of time. And so we want to talk about that. So in your world right now, how are things going?
How are things going? I'm getting used to my new coworkers. So I've been working primarily out of my house for about the last 1.5 to 2 years, but that has been a solo venture. And so now I have 2 coworkers who are there all the time now. And it's a little bit of an adjustment because one of those coworkers is my husband, Sean. And one of those coworkers is my not quite 2-year-old Emerson. And so it's actually been interesting because I think one of the things that I'm facing that other people might resonate with is the expectation and then reality. Yeah. So we'll talk maybe a little bit about fear and reality later because I think that's a component of it.
Yeah.
But my expectation was this will be great for my family. My daughter will be excited I'm home. We'll figure out how to balance it. It'll be great. And we're a full week in now, and it's still really hard.
Yeah.
It's still really hard. And even including, my daughter is thrilled to have me around so much, but then she doesn't understand when I need to be on the phone or mommy needs to be on the computer right now, or I need to shut the door to do something. And so it's adding these very unexpected layers of guilt where I expected actually an alleviation from some of that.
Oh, yeah.
And my husband and I have also found that sharing an office, we have completely opposite work styles and preferences, up to and including playing music, not playing music. What decibel do you play it at? If you play it, and and what kind of music do you play, that sort of thing. So in an already stressful time, just absent that dynamic going on within the walls of your home, it's adding layers to it that I think a lot of people are bumping into right now. So when you and I were talking about, what to talk about and what are kind of the core topics that we wanted to hit on in these conversations, that this idea of this being a gift of time right now. And I would say it's a gift, but the wrapping paper is a pain in the butt. Like, I don't know how else to put that.
No.
I'm sure there's a story I used to tell at work about, there was this child psychologist, and he would test children to see, like what types of mentalities they had. Are they optimists? Are they pessimists? That sort of thing. And Johnny came into the psychologist, and the psychologist took him to a room and opened the door, and the room was full of horse manure everywhere. I mean, just chock full to the brim, gross horse manure everywhere. Eric's like, why are you telling us? We're already talking about poop and it's like 3 minutes in. You're welcome. And instead of the reaction the psychologist was expecting, Johnny like threw himself into the room and started like digging through all this manure everywhere. And the doctor was like, well, Johnny, what are you doing? And he said, well, with all this poop in here, there's got to be a pony somewhere. Yeah. And I love that. Yeah. That, you know, what a great way to think of it. And so I think a lot of us are maybe just in the digging through the poop stage of trying to get to, you know, there's got to be a pony in here somewhere. Yeah. And what I would love for people to think about is instead of one giant pony that's only available once we've navigated through all of this, you know, like look for the little ones throughout the day. What are those little good things? And that is when you have the gift of time together, or pressures are, you know, time pressures are absent because we're not going to engagements or activities or work even, to then kind of say, okay, you know, where's the miniature horse? Where's the pony? You know, in this moment, and look for that next good thing, even if it's something small. I think that's part of what we have.
You said something interesting about the guilt, and that actually is something that I know is running rampant, but we don't like to talk about it. My wife Jamie just posted something about the social media posts. So everyone's posting on social media. So we've got now all these schools are closed across the country, and we have some folks posting online of all the wonderful homeschool activities that they're doing. And my wife falls in that camp because she's a very structured, organized person, and she's got a schedule, and she loves to keep to it, and the kids are thriving in that schedule. But that schedule is available because we have a stable internet connection for online stuff. We have computers available. We have space in our backyard, and all of these things because we have this privilege to have these things. And what some people may be feeling is they see these social media posts and say, I'm not doing that, or I don't have that. Why is this not working? And so when you think about this idea of the gift of time, you're like, oh, finally, I now have the chance to spend time with my family. Why am I feeling frustrated? Yeah. And that is something that I want folks to realize that everybody feels that at some point, and there's no real reason to feel less than somebody else who's posting on social media, because you know from your own social media you usually only post the good things, right? And so we have this curated life, and now that we're spending exponentially more time on social media, posting more things because we're all at home and all together, that effect can be exacerbated. Yeah. And so monitoring how we're feeling around that is really, really critical.
Totally. Oh my gosh, I totally agree with you. It's like that gap between reality and expectation. You know, what I thought this would be like, what this is actually like. And you know, I always say, give yourself a little bit of space and a little bit of grace. And right now, if we can't get space, I mean, other than the appropriate like social distancing that we're demonstrating.
Well, it does look like we're closer on camera.
Yeah, we're
like 15 feet apart here.
That if you can't get space right now, then up the level of grace for yourself and for the people that you're in proximity to. And that is something that I hope becomes a lasting lesson out of this experience of we come away from this having learned the curated life. It's okay if it's messier than that. Yeah. And maybe we can actually let people see that. And when Eric and I were talking about, you know, doing some of these live events or some of the video content that we're going to be sharing with you over the, you know, the coming weeks, and we talked about in this first couple of weeks that we do this, what are people looking for? And, you know, typically we'd be hitting you with lessons on communication and the neuroscience behind how we connect with each other and strategic planning. And we said, you know, people right now want connection.
Yeah.
This is in the adjustment period. And so as we're trying to find those ways to connect, how can we offer that? And one of the ways that we can do that is to help you kind of reframe even in your own spaces what's going on, simply even just by sharing our experiences.
Yeah.
So can I keep chatting?
You can. I'm actually curious about your mug. So.
Oh, about the coffee mug?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. So I don't know if you can see this, but it says, be intentional, not incidental. And so this is a phrase I first adopted years ago. I was going to an International City and County Management Association conference, and I was teaching a session on mentorship.
Okay.
And being a good mentee, being a good mentor. I think at that point I was the mentee, not the mentor. So gives you a little bit of framework of how long ago that was. And one of the lessons I shared in that was this idea of being intentional with our time. And so I've been saying to my husband all week, these feel like the fastest, slowest days ever. Like I feel like they're flying by, but then it's like, holy cow, it's only Friday, shouldn't we be 3 weeks down the road and over this already? So this idea of how you use the time to be intentional with that, whatever that means though. And for some of you, I'm going to issue a relaxation challenge of being intentional about actually relaxing during this time, because one of the pitfalls is the productivity gremlin kicks in. Well, we have all this time, therefore I should be using all this time, and I should be doing all those house projects, and I should be doing, these fabulous lessons with my kids, and whipping up these like gourmet meals all of a sudden, and all these things that I never actually wanted to do in the first place.
I think I should be doing.
Now I feel like I should have already done by the end of this week. It's week 1. What have I accomplished? So that's where this idea of being intentional in this time will help curb that kind of need to produce.
Right.
And give you something functional.
Yeah, when you think about that idea of intentionality, when you compare it against the image that, as you said, I should have already made these gourmet meals. And this is really interesting, just the dynamic between us is that I am more like Sean in that relaxation is very easy for me. Being able to turn off my brain is a wonderful tool, but thinking about intentionally relaxing, not just being lazy, because I can be lazy sometimes. And when you think about what this means for the time now and giving yourself the space to relax now, so Nicole and I, we're facilitators, we're speakers, we go all over the country, all over the world speaking on these concepts. And right now our calendars are empty. For the last 2 weeks, it's email after email, phone call after phone call, canceling events, canceling engagements, postponing engagements. But here's the thing, come the fall, all of these things are going to pick up and they're all going to be concentrated to the end of the year. And so what's going to happen is if we stay kind of at a frantic or frenetic pace now, when we get to that point in the fall when things are really busy, we're going to lose our minds. And so taking the time now to calm and relax and connect with one another, because when we need to lean on that connection, if it's not there, it's not there. And that's interesting.
So do you find yourself struggling with calming some of that right now? Some of the, not necessarily the pace, but some of the concern?
So honestly, for me, I'm not. And this, I think, comes to my being an optimist.
This is what makes me drink the Baileys, just so you know.
And so when I think about things, like let's say, so 3-4 weeks ago, when we first started learning about this whole COVID-19 thing, started reading about it coming to Arizona was one of the first states that came to. Someone at ASU came over from China, and then it didn't spread very fast in Arizona. It still hasn't. It's growing now. But my thinking was, okay, this is going to be a thing, and we're probably going to have some things canceled. I remember I was on a call with a conference I'm doing in Chicago. It's still on the schedule, but we'll see. But as we're kind of negotiating everything, they said, just so you know, this may get canceled. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. These things may get canceled. And that's the first time I really thought about it impacting revenue. And then as more things started getting canceled, my brain immediately went to, okay, but these ones are still good. And then when those ones started to fall, my brain went to, it's okay, but these ones are still good. And so I don't know if it's a malfunction in the way that I process things, but I've always been able to say, okay, but there's still a path forward. And maybe it's just kind of self-preservation. But what I think, like, we had when we have our company meetings, we call it family meeting time. And so we had our last family meeting, and the idea of doing this show came up, and it's like, wow, what a wonderful use of this unusual time. And so my brain then gets even more positive about what's possible, because I think, so what you and I put together, the product that we produce, is unlike anything anyone's ever seen. Like the responses we get every single time is unbelievable. And what I think is going to happen is through this period of time, people are going to want more of it, because what we facilitate is we facilitate human connection. And after this, a month of quarantine or 2 months of quarantine possibly, people are going to need connection more than ever. And that's what we give. And so my brain goes to, the worse this gets, the better it is for us.
I want to throw the koosh ball at him. I don't go there that quickly. I think I eventually get to a version of there, but I don't go there that quickly.
Yeah.
So where, my brain first goes to like most dire like case scenario, and I'm homeless and everyone's sick and, it's Mad Max and to the extreme, and, that's it. But at least I don't have to comb my hair anymore. But what I've been trying to do is just, instead of resisting it, which is what I have a tendency to do, which I think as adult humans, we do that. If it's uncomfortable, we push. And instead choosing to embrace it and then allow it. And eventually I get to the reframing and the, how could I use this time and what good could come? But for right now, I'm just kind of sitting in working on just allowing it to be and dropping that resistance, because that resistance is what creates fear, creates friction, creates stress. And so that's where I'm sitting at. So thanks for not offering any helpful tips for anyone that, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Well, I think the really powerful lesson here is that people process things differently. And if you go back to being intentional, I know that my way of thinking about things is not the way that Nikki thinks about it or my wife thinks about it. And what I intentionally do is I spend time with people that think about things differently, because so my family, we have spring break next week on the calendar.
Woo!
And so we had planned a trip to Cancun. My wife and I had taken a trip there a couple of years ago on like a second honeymoon type of thing, and we saw these really wonderful things we wanted to share with the kids. And so we said, you know what? Let's take the kids to the cenotes and to Chichen Itza and all these wonderful places and swimming with sea turtles and all this cool stuff. And so we've had it on the calendar for months. And like within the last couple of days, the United States has changed the travel advisory from like 1 to 2 to 3 to now 4. And Jamie saw a month ago that it wasn't going to happen. We were going to go to Cancun. I'm like, no, it's going to be fine. And so here's where my brain goes. I'm looking at, the American Airlines app, and I can see what seats are available. I'm like, oh, fewer and fewer seats. That makes it even safer for us to go. My optimist brain. But what I find is that spending time with like people like Jamie, people like you, who tend to process things differently than I do, gives me a different sense of what's really going on and challenges my assumptions. And what I feel like my natural, my savior mentality is, okay, you're struggling, let me help fix it. That's my first reaction. But what I found in spending time with you is like, there's nothing to fix, but it's just different.
Hold space for it. Hold space for it.
And it helps me learn that there are other ways of doing things. And so, Like if you want me to provide some lesson, here's the lesson for people who think like me. Allow people to process things differently than you do. And if I'm calm and someone isn't calm or anxious, it's not their fault. And don't blame them or say there's something wrong, because there isn't. And so anyway, when I think about this, it's a wonderful exercise in connection.
Yeah.
Like the more time that we allow each other to process things our way and talk about them openly, like, oh, now I've got some interesting insight into what it's like. I'm doing work at home with 3 kids, but they're older and we can put them outside in the backyard while we do a show.
I can't do that with the toddlers.
No, because the toddler will bang on the door, and
that's the only reason. That's the only reason.
And so anyway, I think I like this. I want to keep doing this, and I think that you and I have this really cool things. So if you didn't know, we're best friends, but we also challenge each other in the way that we think, and so we're gonna keep this up. We're gonna do these shows once a week or so. Maybe put out some smaller snippets or some quick sips. Some quick sips in between.
Can we close on a point that you just touched on?
Yeah.
So Eric mentioned calm and being the calm one or a calm one. And there's this kind of interesting viewpoint on that of calm is contagious. And so there's actually been studies done where they look at people in a room and what happens over time, without the external stimuli, is the heartbeats in the room will synchronize to the calmest person.
Really?
So they don't ratchet up to meet the highest, they actually they synchronize to the calmest person. And so I'm only having like micro moments of calm right now, to be honest with you. And so if you are the one that's calm, that's also something that you're offering people without needing to make them calm to right then.
Right.
And that's something that we're practicing at my house right now. But this idea that calm is contagious, and I really like that idea of the exponential growth of being calm instead of the exponential growth of panic. That's equally something that could happen.
Right.
So I'd love as you connect. As you connect with us, as we keep sharing how we connect with each other, and with everybody in this time, that's something that I hope comes forward. And we'd love to hear different ways of how you're doing it.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for connecting.
Thanks for not having coffee with me. Appreciate it. Have a good day, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Be well.